From my side, a very warm welcome to all of you. I'm very glad to see you in so big number here in Basel again, and delighted to see you for another moment of reflection on collective action and all its different aspects, taking stock on where we are, where we have moved to, and where we want to head to in the future. You are all aware that Greta Fenner's passing has deeply affected and shaken us personally and has tested us professionally. As president of the board of the Basel Institute, I have taken over executive director responsibility ad interim, supported by all my fellow board members. We will continue to support the management team in this way in the next couple of months till we will have nominated, elected, a new executive director coming in, whom you hopefully know at the best occasion, end of this year or beginning of next year. I wanted to take this opportunity at the beginning to thank the whole team of the Basel Institute, who have been outstanding, not only in skills and competencies, but also in adapting to the new situation in which they find themselves. From deep sadness has certainly emerged a feel of being energized to continue Greta's legacy for fighting corruption and improving standards of governance around the world. No meeting can be open these days without highlighting the moods of our times. We are living through a period of extraordinary disruption, instability, fragmentation of institution, markets, and political system. It's a time of transformation of relations between key international actors, states, non-state, international organizations, alliances, but also individuals, and of deep uncertainty and fear about what lies ahead of us in medium and longer term. We know that for many people, dysfunctional political systems are currently a matter of life and death. The inability of adequately address climate change, wealth inequalities, and response to peace, security, and development aspirations are a huge strain on people and on societies. For others, there is despair and anger in feeling powerless to change this situation. All of us in this room are also aware of how corruption affects these perceptions, eroding trust in leaders and institutions at all levels. Doing justice to judgment, one has also to recognize that challenges to governance seem particularly complex as we speak. While on the one side, governments still need to respond to scarcities, poverty first and foremost, the challenges of managing the plenty are increasingly pressing. Too many emissions, too much and too fast information, too many people on the move, too much volatility, too much corruption, stretching governance capacities all over. We are watching as power politics is upending the rules-based order that international institutions have worked to foster globally over the past 80 years. There have, of course, always been shifting balances of cooperation and conflict between countries. But we are now seeing established powers questioning their role as peacemakers and security providers, and new powers taking more assertively their stand. This puts a spotlight on so many missed opportunities over the past decades to adapt the present global governance, to sync it with new power realities, and we think about the inability to reform the Security Council or to address challenges when they were still at manageable dimensions. Where international cooperation was once an unquestioned aim, competition and conflictual developments are now prominently returning on stage. Traditional alliances are disintegrating, armed conflicts are becoming more disruptive and complex with fragmented actors, are more lethal weapons causing massive impact on populations and infrastructure worldwide. Impunity for violations of human rights, laws, norms, and agreements is becoming a distinct feature of state and non-state behavior. The promise of never again, which has been the raison d'être for global institutions, feels perhaps less sure now than at any point since the end of the Second World War, as we see unlawful and unacceptable behavior repeating itself again and again. Indeed, the impact of armed conflict in terms of displacement, disruption, and lack of services to population has reached highs not seen since the middle of the 20th century. The economic impacts of conflict and other disruptions is growing with illegal and illicit economies and systemic disruption spreading. Economic income generated by open market competition is in retreat compared to income through politically driven rent economies. State capture has turned from distant fiction into substantive global threat. The average time to form governments after election has been gradually increasing over the decades on the European continent, and in parallel, international organizations and negotiations have had more difficulties than ever to find implementable solution. These two examples just illustrating how difficult it is today to find converging political interest in the international community. Even in the most established democracies, with populations who have benefited most from traditional rule-based order, the scarcity and overuse of resources, rapid energy and technological transformation, and stark societal inequalities are fueling ever-increasing feelings of injustice and globalizing double standards. Many of the most moderate citizens have gone from asking, "Can the system be saved?" to now asking, "Do we even want to save the system?" These developments make us recognize that the international consensus, which has to date supported our progress in addressing corruption, is now challenging and challenged increasingly. But these challenges are also providing us with opportunities to adapt. Traditional institutions, such as the UN, OECD, and many others, have not disappeared and are making notable efforts to adapt to new realities by debating best practices and promoting innovative solutions. Of these, collective action and other forms of multi-stakeholder cooperation are proving to be some of the most promising. Stronger alliances in the Global South are contributing to new forms of engagement for global solutions, which may not be in line with mainstream Western approaches as we have pursued them over the past decades, but contain very valuable contributions to international cooperation. In response to illegal and illicit shadow economies to which societies in the Global South are first and foremost the victims of, there are important efforts from a few countries to develop, expand, and innovate their legal infrastructure on anti-corruption. Relatively recent legal concepts like non-conviction-based forfeiture, unexplained wealth, or illicit enrichment, or proposals like the creation of beneficial ownership registries find their way into legislation of a number of countries. Mutual legal assistance processes, as complex as they may be, function as a basis for increasingly popular asset recovery efforts amongst states, including in the Global South. Authorities are making big efforts to professionalize and make their administrations more transparent. For businesses, expectations of regulators, investors, customers, and employees and other stakeholders are higher than ever. At the same time, they bring to the forefront contradictory expectations as they are unfolding in societies. Companies need, therefore, to equip themselves with capacities to navigate political and social tensions within their stakeholderships, at least when they are close to consumer markets, as many companies are. It is therefore positive to see that globally, companies are starting to shift from tick-the-box exercises and compliance to more refined approaches to strengthen integrity and governance, anchoring integrity challenges at the top of business hierarchies, introducing new methods, building on behavioral science, concretizing commitments to integrity through collective action, embracing the concept of green corruption and applying financial investigation and other methods to new areas of concern. Governments and businesses supported by civil society and academia are committed to evidence-based decision and policy making. Impact-oriented and people-centered action is being prioritized, and systems for achieving integrity and governance are being implemented. New technologies are allowing for new forms of research and cooperation, building alliances around issues and facilitating international communities of practice that could otherwise not be sustained. While many of us are worried, and rightly so, by simplistic populism, I'm also impressed every day by the number of actors delicately navigating the big dilemmas of our time inherent to the challenges of anti-corruption work, by balancing principles and pragmatism, individual and systemic approaches, legal compliance with the need to create a space for negotiations on implementation of norms and standards, respect for professional standards and political advocacy, transparency and privacy, and between empowering anti-corruption authorities while ensuring respect for individual rights. In such an environment, it is particularly important to come together, create a space for debate, and to support each other in sending positive signals. And while megatrends may seem unaffected by our efforts, I always believe that the God of small things may be on our side. Without falling into naive positivity, it is important to demonstrate that things can be done if we work together. Not necessarily because we are like-minded, but because we know that bringing different perspectives together in a common framework bears a noticeable chance of real impact on societies. This is the positive message coming from collective action. It's an action, cooperation, and future-oriented framework, focusing on how we give meaning to norms, principles, and values to which we have agreed, often long time ago, but on which we still struggle, finding adequate ways forward. At its most effective, collective action can help to remind us of why we have agreed to those principles and values and show us how to achieve them. It can help to breathe new life into global rules-based order that is currently at risk, but also make it fairer and help us to reinvigorate international support for democratic institutions, for accountability, and for more sophisticated checks and balances. Collective action has shifted the balance from often quite mechanical compliance practice to how we open a space for agreements on concrete steps forward. It anchors ethical behavior and compliance with norms in specific contexts, times, and around concrete action plans. It is a mobilizing force, giving agency to multiple stakeholders. Many of us have seen and exchanged with each other last week in Vilnius at the IACC. Regarding collective action and more broadly anti-corruption, I have heard at the conference 3 important messages coming out of last week's discussions. Firstly, corruption is a formidable global challenge that hinders progress on the SDGs, weakens the rule of law, deteriorates public institutions, erodes trust, exacerbates social and economic disparities, and compromises peace and security. Re-establishing integrity and trust in institutions as a key path to fighting corruption seems critically important to most of us. Secondly, to fight corruption, we need multifaceted approaches, including transparency, integrity, and impunity-based action, leveraging technology, building capacities, and expanding cooperative agreements between different stakeholders. Collective action must be one of the pillars of a more comprehensive, multidisciplinary anti-corruption strategy. And thirdly, if we want to have success in our efforts, we need to create environments conducive to our anti-corruption efforts. Accountable and rule-based political systems create an environment in which specific anti-corruption action can be advanced and attacks on open societies countered. While there is no linear link between anti-corruption, democracy, and human rights, the potential of innovative understandings on how the 3 concepts can positively interact is very much still an open challenge to the respective communities. A clear willingness to go beyond rigid silos was seen, and I have taken that home as a positive way forward. Looking ahead to the next 2 days, I'm excited by the discussions we will have. Over the course of the 5 panel sessions, as well as in the breakout sessions, we will collectively explore many of the themes that I tried to raise in my introduction today. As we discuss the questions raised, it may be useful to remind ourselves that integrity will not be a top priority issue if we fail to bring a powerful alliance of stakeholders from all parts of the world together. We must remain cautious not to fall into the trap of designing integrity as a neo-colonialist enterprise where those who have traditionally held power try to impose their normative systems on others. Rather, collecting best practices from different contexts and parts of the world and learning from each other's experiences will be critical. I was delighted to hear that the Basel Institute's 2 recent regional forums in South Africa and the Philippines are helping to catalyze the development of regional communities of collective action practitioners in Southern Africa and the Asia-Pacific region. There is huge energy in those regions and appetite for change. We believe a lot of the future expansion and innovation on collective action will be at the regional level in those regions and in Latin America. Indeed, in August, the Institute will return to Asia Pacific with the OECD and in collaboration with the Thai Collective Action Against Corruption, and will host a practical hands-on workshop designed to facilitate peer learning and enhancing the development of collective action models in the region. Our aim for the next 2 days is that together, we as representatives of governments, business, civil society, international organization, and academia take another step forward in achieving global recognition for collective action as an effective tool for rebuilding trust in institutions and democratic norms at a local, national, and international level. The Basel Institute, supported by the Siemens Integrity Initiative, the sponsors of this conference and of much of our anti-corruption collective action work over the last 14 years, would like to thank all of you very much for your participation. As ever, we remain open to providing help, advice, connections, and technical assistance to those of you who want to initiate, scale up, and further develop collective action in your contexts. And with this, I wish all of us fruitful exchanges, interesting debates in the days ahead, also in the break time, and I hope to see many of you and have the opportunity with exchanging with many of you bilaterally during those days. Thank you very much.